What was the American reaction when the Branch Davidian compound was burned on April 19th?
Just horror and mystification because it was something that was live on cable television, a relatively new phenomenon back then. I mean, obviously CNN had been on the air for more than a decade, but they didn't do a whole lot of live events. They did do that, and people could watch as this smoke began coming out of the compound and the fire engulfed the place, killing all of the people inside. So initially there was shock, and I don't think a lot of people really knew the background of what happened, why the feds raided the place in the first place, and what the standoff was all about, but they learned quickly. But I think the initial reaction was shock and to wonder of how this happened, and that's what spurred the hearings.
Well, within 10 days, the House Judiciary Committee, led by Jack Brooks, a Democrat from Texas, held hearings. What was the point of those hearings so quickly?
Well, it depends on who you talk to. Some people say the point of the hearings was to answer some of these questions that were raised by what happened. I mean, there was such an astonishment at what had happened. People wanted to know right away what did happen and why, what people did that led to this fire that engulfed children as well as adults. There's also a scene that there's also a sign that the Democrats ran the House back in 1993, and there was a feeling that the majority wanted to move quickly in order to protect the Clinton administration, which kind of struggled out of the gate. President new President Clinton had a lot of struggles early on in his administration. Waco obviously was one of them, and I think some House Democrats were looking to give him cover right away after this terrible incident.
Did the congressional hearings impact law enforcement or anything?
Yes, it forced them. I think it forced the FBI and ATF and other federal law enforcement agencies to kind of review their tactics and change the way they did things, especially in a raid involving armed weapons. Because, like I mentioned, there have been several incidents of this type before Waco, and I think the feds basically changed the way they did business on these things after Waco, and especially after the Oklahoma City bombing, which was, of course, on the second anniversary of the Waco fire. So that also caused a reevaluation of how the federal government did things when it came to law enforcement.
Do you think there can be a direct line or some type of line drawn between Oklahoma City, Ruby Ridge, January 6th, and the Waco events of 93?
Oh, very much so. It's still with us today. I mean, we didn't realize this at the time, at least I certainly didn't, but it was a vanguard of an anti-government movement that's still with us. Of course, the gun issues are still with us, but a lot of what we saw on January 6, 2021, with the Trump protests of the election, a lot of those folks come from this conspiracy minded milieu that was part and parcel of what happened at Waco. So many of the issues that the raid raised and the hearings raised are still with us today in the political sphere.